All right. So hi everyone, welcome you all. So in the today's session, mainly we will start with the introduction part, like what is manual testing and what is an automation testing. And we'll see some basic things, and then we'll discuss something about Selenium. And after the session, if you have any queries, or you can unmute and you can ask. And meanwhile, if you have any questions, you can put everything in the chat box. Immediately, I'll try to answer them. And at the end of the session, I will show you what are the things we are going to learn as part of this course, and what are the things you are going to get, and how this training will help you. All those general things we will talk. And before that, let us start. So the introduction part, and people who came from different type of backgrounds. So some of have already experienced in manual testing and automation, and some of them are completely new to this training and new to software testing. So you guys don't need to worry. So I'll start from very basic. And even though if you don't know manual testing, still you can understand the concepts. And if you want to learn manual testing, I can share some of the videos and you can just go through them. You can watch them. You can understand manual testing concepts later. Okay, parallelly, you can learn them, no problem. So let us start today's session. And if you have any queries, you can post in your chat box. And at the end of the session, I can unmute and you guys can ask your questions. And all audios and videos, everything is muted. So just to avoid the disturbances, at the end of the session, everything is unmuted. Okay, guys. Now let us start with the introduction part. So before going to automation testing, so what is software testing? So people, we already know something about software testing. We already have some experience. You guys can tell what is software testing means. So software testing is what? Is a process of finding the bugs or finding the defects in a software. So what is the main goal of software testing? Main goal of software testing is to find or identify the bugs, and also we need to release the quality product to the customer. So that's the main intention of performing the software testing, right? So software testing is a process of finding defects in a software. And the main goal of software testing is we have to release a quality product to the customer or client. That's the main objective or goal of the software testing, right? But why, in which way we can test the software? Different ways are there. So we can do manual testing or we can do automation testing, right? So what is difference? So what is manual testing and what is an automation testing? So manual testing means we don't use any tools. We can simply test the software manually. So we don't use any tools, right? So simply we can call it as a manual testing. And if I use any automation tools, so through automation tools, by using automation tools, if we perform any testing, we can call it as a automation testing, right? These are the only two approaches which we have. Either we can do manual testing or we can do automation testing, right? So if you want to do manual testing, we will perform the testing without using any tools. So here, the tester will perform the tool. So performing the testing without using any tools is known as a manual testing. And here the tester or person will do the testing. We don't use any tools, right? But while performing manual testing, we have certain challenges. So to overcome those challenges, automation tools came into market. So these are only two approaches which we have. Either we can do manual testing or we can do automation testing. But why we need to go to automation testing? So we have certain challenges. Okay, so let us understand what are those challenges while performing manual testing, and then we will try to understand about automation testing. Okay, so while performing manual testing, as I said, manual testing is we can simply test that application or test the software manually without using any tools. But what are the challenges in the manual testing? So there are majorly two challenges. I think people already heard about this. The first thing is retesting. Retesting is one challenge. Second is regression testing. Have you heard about these terms? Retesting and regression testing. So these are the most two important type of testings we normally conduct during manual testing. Retesting and regression testing. Retesting and regression testing. So what is retesting? Retesting means again and again. We will conduct testing or we will do testing in repetition mode, right? Everything we will do again and again. Same test we will execute multiple times. Same kind of a test we will repeat multiple times. which is basically called as retesting. Retesting. Examples, for example, let us take a login test. Let's say you have an application, in that we have a login screen. So you want to test the login screen. So to test the login screen, only with the valid username and valid password is enough. So we need to also perform negative testing. Means what? When you provide a valid username and valid password, the login should be successful. And if you provide invalid username and invalid password, login should not be successful. So that is not enough for testing, right? We need to test the same login screen with a different type of inputs, like valid username and valid password, valid username and invalid password, invalid username and valid password, blank username and blank password. So different combinations of data we have to use while performing the testing. So what exactly we are doing there? We are executing the same test case or same steps multiple times with the different sets of data, which is basically called as retesting, executing the same test case again and again multiple times in multiple cycles. So which is basically called as a retesting. But what is the challenge while performing retesting? What is the challenge while performing retesting? So we need to spend a lot of time and effort, right? So if you want to do the same task multiple times again and again, it takes some time. And also we need to put a lot of effort, right? In every cycle of execution, we have to put a lot of effort. So this is a time consuming process, and also we need to put a lot of effort. So that is a major challenge while we perform the retesting. We cannot skip this. Okay, retesting we have to do sometimes while performing the manual testing. That's a major challenge. Second thing is regression testing, which is also most important. So what is the regression testing? Anybody know about it? What is regression testing? Regression testing. Am I audible, everyone? Yes, am I audible to everyone? Okay. So what is regression testing? So retesting we have understood. So executing the same test case multiple times again and again, we call it as a retesting. So what is the regression testing? Okay, so regression testing, I'll give you a simple example. We can understand very, very easily. So in the real time, so whenever you want to test the software, right, what is the prerequisite for that? We have to get it from the developer, right? So what is the developer task? What is a developer task? So what developer will do? Developer is responsible for developing a software. So for that, what they will do is they will write the code, right? They do some kind of a code, or they do programming, and through which they can develop the software. And once they develop some piece of software, they will provide that software. We can call it as a product, or we can call it as a build, a piece of software which contains some functionality, and they will provide to QA or for tester. So now what is the responsibility of the tester? We have to test the software, whether it is working according to customer requirement or not, right? That's the main responsibility of the software tester. As a tester, what is our role? We have to test the software according to the customer requirement, whether it is working according to client requirement or not. All functionalities are working fine or not. That's a major responsibility of the tester. So developer will not provide all the features in one single build. Okay, they develop the software in bits and pieces. Let us say a customer says, I have 10 features should be there in your software or an application. Developer, they don't develop all 10 features in one single build. Okay, so they will develop one or two features in the first build, and they will provide to the testing. And after that, again, they will develop another 2 to 3 features, and again, another build provide to the testing. So this will happen in multiple cycles. And when you reach the last cycle of the testing, then you will find all the features available in the software. So nothing will happen in one shot. Okay, the developer will develop the software. They will add more number of features in multiple cycles of the testing. At the same time, tester also will test those features in multiple cycles of the testing. Okay, this is basically called a STLC, software testing lifecycle process. So during the process, what happens is Let me take a simple example so that you can understand. Let us say here I have a development team, and here another side I have a testing team. So developer is provided build number 1 to the testing team. Okay. In the build number 1, let us say I have executed, let's say 10 test cases. Okay, 10 test cases I have executed in build number 1. I have 10 test cases totally I have planned for build number 1. So I have executed these 10 test cases in build number 1. Okay, in cycle 1. And now in 10 test cases, let us say 8 test cases are got passed, only 2 test cases are got failed. Okay, 8 test cases are got passed in the first build, 2 test cases are got failed. Now what we will do as a tester, what we need to do? We have to report the bugs to the developer. So these two, just a second. Okay. I think now it is fine. Okay. Okay, so now in the first cycle of testing, 8 test cases already passed. Now let us say 2 test cases got failed. Okay, now as a tester, what you will do? You will report the bugs, right? So these 2 test cases are got failed, you will report them. Now the developer will provide you next build. Let's say build number 2. So in the build number 2, developer will implement some of new features. Okay, some new features plus bug fixes. Some of new features and some bug fixes. So in the build number 2, you will get some new features as well as some bug fixes. Okay, just a moment, guys. I think something is wrong. Hold on. Right. So in the build number 2, the developer will add some more new features along with some bug fixes. Okay, now as a tester, what is our responsibility now? What are the testings we do in the second build? So first priority will be given to the bug fixes, right? So whatever the test cases are got failed in the previous build, we reported them. Now in the second build, the developer fixed them. Now in the second build, we have to test whether these 2 test cases are passing or not. And along with them, we should also test the dependent functionality. What is dependent functionality means? Sometimes what happens is developer will modify the code, right? So to fix these bugs, they will modify the code. So because of that modification, what will happen? Not only modifications, sometimes the developer will add some new features. So because of those changes, the existing functionality will be impacted, right? If you developer changes something in the application, definitely some existing code will be impacted, right? So not only these 2 bug fixes, along with them, we should also verify some dependent functionality or some impacted areas of the application. So that is basically called as a regression testing. Regression testing means what? Whatever bug fixes the developer is provided, we will verify those bugs are working fine or not. Apart from this, we should also verify the existing functionality. We have to make sure the existing functionality should not be broken. The existing functionality should not be broken because of changes done by the developer. That is called regression testing. Simple way we can understand like this. Okay. So the regression testing we have to do in every cycle, because in every cycle, some new functionality will be added or some bug fixes will be added in every cycle, in every build, right? So definitely we have to perform the regression testing in every build. And retesting is also part of regression testing. So whatever test cases are failed in the previous build, again, we have to re-verifying in the second build, right? This is part of retesting. But because of this change, impacted areas also we need to cover as part of testing. That is a part of regression testing. So now we understood what is the difference between retesting and regression testing. Retesting means what? Executing the same set of test cases in the next cycle or in the next build. That is called retesting. Regression testing means what? not only those retest cases, we should also make sure the other existing functionality should not be broken because of this change. That means impacted areas also we have to test. That is called regression testing. So these two types of testing will be continued in every cycle of testing, in every build which is provided by the developer. So these two testings are time consuming. Other thing is we need to put a lot of effort. So these are the two major challenges we face while performing the manual testing, especially when you do retesting and when you do regression testing, we face challenges. So to overcome these two challenges, automation tools will be used. So automation tools will reduce a lot of time and effort. Okay, so this is all about manual testing. So what is manual testing? The testing the software without using any tools. We call it as a manual testing. And while performing retesting and regression testing, we face challenges. Means what? We have to spend a lot of time because there is a repetition. And the same test cases, we have to re-execute multiple times. That needs a lot of effort. So retesting, while performing retesting, while performing regression testing, we face challenges while performing manual testing. So now let us understand why we need automation testing. So to overcome these two challenges, we go for automation tools. Now, what is an automation testing? Automation testing means that performing testing by using tools, right? We use any tool. It can be any automation tool, third-party tool. We perform testing, which is called as automation testing. Performing the testing with the help of tools known as automation testing. Tool is nothing but what? Again, it is another type of software. A tool is nothing but a software. So performing the testing with the help of tool or tools. Sometimes we can use one tool, sometimes we can use multiple tools. So performing the testing with the help of automation tools is known as automation testing. Is known as automation testing. But how exactly automation tool works? How can we overcome these two challenges by using automation tools? So before understanding how we can overcome these two challenges, we need to know how exactly automation tools work. So how exactly automation tools work. So let me just give you an example. With that, we can understand how exactly automation tool works and also why we need programming. So while using automation tool, we have to know some programming concepts. So why we need programming? So that also we'll try to understand. Okay, so now let's see how exactly automation tool works. If you do manual testing, let's say you have an application. Let's say this is your application under test. So whatever application you are going to test, which is called as application under test. Now you have a manual test case. So what is the test case? What is the test case? Test case is nothing but a step-by-step action which we need to perform on the application, right? For example, let us take a login. So what is the test case for login? We need to launch our application, then provide your valid username, password, click on submit button, then check the home page is displayed or not. So these are simple steps, which is called as a test case. So test case is nothing but what? Step-by-step action which we need to perform to test that application. So while performing manual testing, you have a test case. This is your test case. Now, as a manual testing, what is your job? Let's say you are a manual tester. What is your job? You have to read each and every step in your manual test case and you have to execute that step in the application. And you need to check expected and actual results are same, right? Suppose you are performing some step, you are executing some step on the application. And what is your expected? Suppose you are opening your URL of application on the browser. So you need to check the home page is displaying or not. So after providing valid username and valid password, clicking on submit, then you have to check the home page is displayed or not. A login page. After successful login, let's say the dashboard page is displayed or not. So that is your expected. So what is the test case means? Test case contains a step-by-step action which we have to perform. Along with that, we need to check expected and actual results are same or not. So if you find any mismatch between expected and actual, you can find that as a bug and you can report to the developer. That is a process of testing, manual testing part. Now come to the automation. So in automation, what you will do is you have application under test, whatever application you are going to test, which is called application under test. You have a manual test case. Okay, you have a manual test case. This is your manual test case. Now, as an automation tester, what you will do is you will convert this manual test into test script. This is your test script. Test script is nothing but an automation format. So whatever manual test case you have to convert the test case, manual steps, English steps into automation format. Test script, we call it as an automation test script. Okay, and where you will write this automation test script, who can understand this test script? Automation tool can understand. So whichever tool we are using, automation testing tool, we have to, as an automation tester, we have to provide the instructions to the tool. Whatever steps we have written in the manual test case, same steps we have to provide to the automation tool. Now, tool can understand those steps and perform the actions on the application under test. This is the process, how exactly automation tool works. So as an automation tester, we have to provide the steps. We have to provide instructions to the tool. Then tool can understand it, and accordingly it will perform the actions and find out expected and actual results are same or not. But how tool can understand our steps? Because normally in the test case, we will use English language and while writing the test case. But how the tool can understand the language? So we have to provide the instructions in particular language that the tool can understand. So tool also can understand some language. If the tool understands Java language, then we have to provide these steps in the Java language. We have to provide all instructions in Java. If the tool can understand Python, then we have to provide all instructions in Python. If the tool can understand any other language, we have to, or suppose tool can understand JavaScript language, then we have to provide all instructions in JavaScript language. So the tool can understand a particular language, in whichever language the tool can understand. In the same language, we have to provide all instructions to the tool. And then only the tool can understand, and tool will be able to perform the actions automatically on the application. So there exactly the language come into picture. So why programming language is most important for automation? Because if you want to work with the automation tool, you have to learn a programming language. If you know programming language effectively, then you will be able to provide instructions to the tool so that you can use the automation tool very effectively. So that is the reason we have to learn programming first, and then you have to learn how to use the tool. We cannot directly jump into the tool. First, we have to know the programming. And once you know the programming concepts, then you will know exactly how to use automation tool. Okay. So now, how automation testing or how automation tools will overcome these two challenges: retesting and regression. We all discussed these two challenges. Retesting means what? We can execute the same test case multiple times, which is retesting. Regression testing is nothing but what? In every cycle of testing, we will re-verify the bugs. And also we need to make sure the impacted areas also working fine. That's called regression testing. But how can we overcome these two while using automation tool or automation testing? So automation tools mainly designed to overcome these two challenges, guys. Initial days, automation came into market because of these two challenges only: retesting and regression testing. But later on, what happens is automation tools we are using for everything, not only retesting and regression test cases. Whatever the functionality we want to test, everything we will test through automation. But initially, the main purpose of automation tool is to perform the retesting and the regression testing. Okay, now let us understand how can we overcome the challenges while performing retesting and regression testing using automation tool. Let us say you have one test case. Let's say take a retest case. You have a test case. Let's say I have multiple steps in my test case. I want to execute the same steps multiple times with the different sets of data. Let's say I have different sets of data, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say I have 100 inputs are there. Sometimes if a test case is very complex, you need to prepare test data first. Okay, now I want to repeat the same steps with the different sets of data. Same steps I want to repeat. So how can we do this through automation? We will specify this test data in some external file. It can be Notepad or in Excel file. It can be PDF file or some other external files. So we will maintain the data, or it can be sometimes a database. So we'll maintain the test data in some source, third-party applications. And we will write your automation script, all steps, and this automation script, this is our automation script, will read each and every input and perform actions. It will read each and every input automatically, and then the same step will be repeated by the tool. The tool will perform the actions. So once you write your automation code, that is one-time job. So some next time onwards, automation tool will automatically perform the job by taking different type of inputs. So if I want to do the same thing manually, it takes a lot of time, right? So I have 100 inputs. If I have 4 to 5 inputs, we will finish within 5 to 10 minutes. But if I have 100 inputs, 1000 inputs, if you want to repeat the same thing for multiple times, it is very, very difficult task, right? So exactly here we use automation tools. So once you write your automation code, and that will automatically take the input from the different sources and perform the actions. So a lot of time and effort will be reduced. But what about regression testing? How can we overcome regression testing challenge? So as we discussed, what is regression testing? Same set of test cases we want to execute in multiple cycles. Right? Say in the first cycle, let's say in the first cycle of testing, you have executed 10 test cases and 8 test cases are got passed. Let's say 2 test cases are got failed. Okay, 10 test cases, 8 test cases passed, 2 test cases got failed. So in the first cycle, what you will do is, whatever test cases are already passed, you will automate them. Okay, they will automate those test cases. In the cycle 2, what you will do, these 2 test cases, whatever is got failed, you will test them manually. These 2 test cases, you will execute manually. And because of these 2 changes, maybe the rest of the functional is impacted, right? So these 8 test cases, again, we have to execute. Why we need to execute these 8 test cases? They are already passed in the cycle 1, right? But why we need to execute them again? Because the changes are happened. In the second build, the changes are happened. So because of these changes, what happens? The existing functionality may not work properly. So again, what you have to do? These 8 test cases, again, you have to execute in the second cycle. And because you already automated these 8 test cases in the first cycle itself, in the second cycle, you will execute these 8 test cases through automation. Because you already automated. They are already passed in the earlier build, so they are already automated. So in the next cycle, you will run those 8 test cases automation tool by using automation tool. In that way, we can reduce the time and effort. And in the second cycle, let's say these 2 test cases also passed. Then what you will do, as soon as the test cases are got passed, you will also automate those test cases. So like this, in every cycle, there are certain number of test cases will be there for execution through automation. So that will reduce a lot of time and effort. So that's how we can overcome retesting and regression testing challenges while using automation tools. So now here we understood 2 important points. One is how exactly automation tool works. So as an automation tester, we have to provide instructions to the tool. How we can provide instructions to the tool? Through the language. Language is a medium. Like if the tool understands Java, then we have to provide all instructions in Java language. If the tool can understand Python, then we have to provide all instructions in Python language. So where exactly the language, programming language come into picture, right? And automation tool can understand those instructions and accordingly it will perform the actions on the application automatically. So almost every automation tool will work in the similar way. The language may be different, the internal architecture may be different, but the way of working, how we can understand the instructions, how actions to be performed, the application is almost the same. Okay, the language will be different. Okay, some tools will understand multiple languages. And some tools will understand only one or two languages. It depends how automation tool is got designed. If I look at Selenium, Selenium supports multiple languages. Suppose if you know Java, you can use Selenium. If you know Python, you can use Selenium. Or if you know JavaScript, you can still use Selenium. So like that. So some tools will understand multiple languages. Some tools will understand just one or two languages. So understand this. So what is an automation testing? Automation testing is performing the testing with the help of tools. By taking help of automation tools, we will perform the testing, which is basically called as automation testing. So now we understood two important points: how automation tool works and why programming is required for automation. I hope everybody is clear so far. Can you please confirm in the chat window? Are you guys clear so far? So we understood just basic stuff. What is manual testing? What is an automation testing? And what are the challenges we have in the manual testing? And how can we overcome them by using automation testing? And why programming is most important to learn automation testing tool. Without programming, you can't understand the tool. You can't work with the tool. So programming is must and should. Not in-depth programming, at least you have to know how to write the test case. Okay. So we will discuss later. So this is the basic introduction part we understood. Now let us talk something about Selenium. Okay, so we are going to learn Selenium. So because we have to know some basic stuff about Selenium. So what is Selenium? So there are multiple tools in the market to perform automation testing, but why especially we have to learn Selenium? What is Selenium? What are the advantages? What it will support? What it will not support? Okay, and we will try to understand this. So what is Selenium? There are multiple definitions are there. Let me just put all the definitions. The first important thing, Selenium is basically web automation tool. We should not say Selenium is a tool. Tool is nothing but what? A single component which we can download, install, and we can use it. That is basically called as a tool, right? But in reality, Selenium is not a tool actually. It's a collection of multiple components, or it's a collection of multiple libraries. But generally we call it as a tool, but reality, as per the definition, it is not a tool. But even though if we call it as a tool, nothing wrong in this, in the normal terminology. So the first definition of Selenium is, it is a web-based automation tool, or we can say library. So library is a right word. Instead of using tool, using library is a right terminology. So Selenium is a web-based automation tool or a library. What does that mean? Why we are specifically saying web-based automation tool? Web-based automation tool or library means Selenium support only web-based applications. Selenium supports only web-based applications. We can test only web-based applications. So do you know what type of applications are there in the market? Guys, can anyone tell me? What are the different types of applications? Types of applications in the market. I'm talking about the types of applications. Yes. Different types of applications. You have web-based applications, or we can say web applications, right? Web applications. And second is what? Desktop applications. Desktop applications. And third thing is what? Nowadays it's more famous, mobile applications or mobile apps. So mainly in the current market, these are the three different type of applications which we have. Web-based applications, desktop applications, and then mobile applications. Now let us understand the difference. What is web-based application? Web-based applications means we can access those applications through browser, right? So actually those are resides in some servers, remote servers, and we'll try to accessing those applications using browser. So nowadays, what are applications we are accessing through browser? All are web-based applications. E-commerce portals, banking applications, right? Social applications, LinkedIn, Facebook, these are all comes under web applications. So through browser, we are able to access those applications. They are called web applications. And what is the desktop applications means? Desktop applications. Those applications we can just download and install on your local system and you can use it. You don't need any internet for them. But if you want to use web applications, you need internet connection. You need to connect to the internet. Then only you can work with the web applications. Through the web, you can access. But desktop applications, you can still use without having internet. Examples? Can you give me some examples for desktop applications? Yes. So whatever applications we are using internally, like MS Excel, Word, PowerPoint, Notepad, calculator, right? So these are all comes under desktop applications. So mostly we will download those applications and we can install it on your local system and you can try to use it. You don't need internet for them, right? If you want to use MS Word document, you don't need internet. If you want to use Notepad, you don't need internet. They are all called desktop applications. Now the third type of applications are what? Mobile applications. So nowadays, these applications are very famous. You know already what is mobile applications. We are using WhatsApp, LinkedIn, all Twitter, right? In your mobile. So through Play Store or through Apple Store, you're trying to install applications, apps, mobile apps, right? They are all comes under mobile apps, mobile applications. So these are the three types of applications currently which we have in your market: web applications, desktop applications, and mobile applications, right? Now, when you come to the Selenium, Selenium support only web-based applications. It is designed only for web-based applications, not for anything else. So we cannot test desktop applications. We cannot test mobile applications. We have to use some different tools for them. But Selenium is only meant for what? Web-based applications. So Selenium is a web-based automation tool or library. Now we will try to understand some more definitions. Selenium was originally developed by Jason Huggins in 2004 from ThoughtWorks. Actually, this is the name of the developer, Jason Huggins. He's a developer who was working in ThoughtWorks company during 2004. So in this particular time, in the market, desktop applications were there in the market, but web applications are newly coming into the market. So during that time, internet is becoming popular. So web applications started coming into the market during those days. Okay. So that time QTP was there. QTP or UFT, the tool was using people for both web as well as desktop applications. But now what they want to do is they want to develop a software or a tool through which they wanted to test web application. And that too open source. Means they don't want to buy anything, external tools, but they want to develop themselves a tool through which they want to automate the web application. So they have started implementation, and that becomes a Selenium later. So Selenium is basically started by Jason Huggins. He is a developer who was working in 2004 in ThoughtWorks company. Okay, so he is a developer. He started, and after that, what happens? There are so many other developers contributed their time and effort, and they made the Selenium as a community-based tool. It is running through community. Means what? Community-based tool means what? There are multiple developers for multiple companies. They're spending their time and effort, and they have contributed. And slowly they have added so many features into Selenium, and then they make as a community-based tool. Means it is running through community, run by community itself. Anybody can contribute. If you have some basic knowledge, if you want to develop some new features in Selenium, anybody can contribute it. So this is totally open source. Open source means what? Anybody can customize it, and we can use it freely. We don't need to buy any license for that. That's called open source. Okay. So Selenium started by Jason Huggins in 2004 from ThoughtWorks company. And initially they have used that only in their companies. And later on, after making that as a community-based tool, everybody started using it. And during 2010, 2011, those days and those years, it becomes very popular. And it is open source. As I told you, what is open source means? Anybody can customize the code. Anybody can add new features. And it is totally free of cost. We don't have any license We don't need to pay anything for Selenium. Just we need to download the library, do some configuration, you can start using it. Totally, it is free. And it is a collection of multiple components. As I said in the beginning, Selenium is not a single tool actually. It's a collection of multiple components, which is having IDE, WebDriver, and Git. In the initial days, we have also RC component, remote control. So collectively, we call it as a Selenium. Selenium IDE, Integrated Development Environment, Selenium WebDriver, Selenium Grid, Selenium RC, remote control. Instead of RC, they have replaced with the WebDriver. So now RC is outdated. Now WebDriver is already deprecated, and WebDriver is replaced. So IDE, WebDriver, and Grid. So these three components collectively we call it as a Selenium. But majorly we use WebDriver. Majorly we use WebDriver for our automation. Okay. So these are all basic introduction. What is Selenium? Selenium is a web-based automation tool or library, which is developed by Jason Huggins in 2004 from ThoughtWorks. And after that, they made it as a community-based tool, becomes open source and totally free of cost, and which contains a multiple components, IDE, WebDriver, Git. And majorly we use WebDriver. Selenium, if anybody talking about Selenium, they are basically talking about Selenium WebDriver. And every component is having their own usage. IDE for record and playback, WebDriver is for automation, Grid is for execution. So every tool is having, every component is having their own usage. Later we will discuss in detail. Here I'm just giving very high level overview. Okay, so this is all about what is Selenium. Okay, so the question is why there was no development around desktop applications, means supporting both web and desktop. Okay, so Selenium initial days, their requirements totally different. Okay, so they wanted to just automate only web application. That is their requirement in initial days. So that is the reason they have just concentrated only on the web-based applications and the tool which support only web-based applications. And if you want to test any desktop applications or mobile applications, there are some other tools are available in the market. Even there are some tools which will support everything. So if you want to test web as well as APIs or as well as mobile apps, desktop apps, then there are some tools are available in the market. Other tools are available in the market. Okay, but why Selenium is meant for? Because those days they wanted to test only web applications. They don't have any type of support. Their goal is that actually. So accordingly, they have concentrated. So they have focused only on web applications. So for that, they developed the Selenium part. So that's the reason Selenium is only for web-based automation. It doesn't support any other type of application. Okay, fine. So general things I will talk at the end of the session. First, concentrate on this. Okay, once the topic is done, then I will discuss the general things. So now we understood what are the different type of applications are there in the market and what type of applications the Selenium support. Only web-based applications Selenium supported, and rest of the type of applications we use a different tools. For desktop applications, we go for UFT or SQL or AutoIT. For mobile applications, we use Appium or some other tools. Okay, but web applications, we will prefer to use Selenium. Okay, so now let us try to understand what it will support, what it will not support, because every tool is having their own advantages and disadvantages. No tool is perfect in the market. If you take any tool, definitely there are some advantages. Definitely there are some disadvantages also there. Okay. Now, when you come to Selenium, so let us first understand what are the advantages. Why we need to learn Selenium. Okay. Let us talk about advantages. Just a second. Open source tool and free of cost. So the first advantage of Selenium is what? Open source tool, and it is a free of cost. So why people are started learning and started using companies? Because it is a open source. Open source means what? As I already told you, anybody can do modifications in the tool itself. If you want to add some more features, you can just download Selenium library and you can develop something and you can check in. So that particular change or that particular feature is available in the market. For the users, it is available. Open source means what? It is easily customizable. And moreover, it is free. You no need to buy any license for that. So that is the reason Selenium becomes popular in the market in the initial days. But later on, there are many tools came into market. They are also open source and freely available. But initial days, when you come to automation part, automation testing part, the open source market is started from Selenium. Okay. So it is totally open source and free. The second one, mainly it will support multiple operating systems, multiple browsers, and multiple languages. These are the three main features from Selenium. So that is the reason Selenium become very popular in the market. It supports multiple operating systems. So normally, if you take any tool, it will support just one or two operating systems. But Selenium support multiple operating systems. What does that mean? We can install and we can use Selenium or Windows or Mac or Linux or Unix, whichever operating system you have, you can configure Selenium and you can use it. So that is supporting multiple operating support is there. Multiple operating systems it will support. Multiple browsers also it is supported, which is another main important feature we should have, especially web-based automation tool. Okay, so why it is support multiple browsers, especially when you do web testing or web application testing. As part of our requirement, we should execute our test cases on multiple browsers. So like Chrome browser, we have Firefox browser, we have Edge browser, Opera browser, Safari browser. There are different browsers are there in the market. So we have to execute our test in multiple browsers. Why we need to test? Why we have to execute all our tests in multiple browsers? That is basically called as a cross-browser testing. Because we don't know exactly which browser the client will use. Some of them like Chrome browser, some of them like Edge browser, some of them will like Firefox browser, right? So our application should work in multiple browsers in the similar way, right? So sometimes what happens is when you open your application in different browsers, you will face some UI issues. The same kind of elements will not be displayed on another browser. So most of the times, graphical user interface issues you will get. So to solve them, you have to first execute our test in multiple browsers, which is basically called as a cross-browser testing. Cross-browser testing means what? We can execute our test cases on multiple type of browsers. So through automation, how it is possible? If the tool supports multiple browser execution, then it is possible, right? So once you write your test case, we can execute it on different browsers. How it is possible? Because the tool will support it. If the tool supports multiple browsers, then we will be able to execute our test cases on multiple browsers. That is possible. So Selenium supports multiple browsers, multiple operating systems, and also multiple browsers. Now, third important point is support multiple languages. It will support multiple languages. Java, Python, C#, Ruby, JavaScript. These are the main languages currently it is supporting. You don't need to learn every language. At least if you know one language, you can start using Selenium with that language. If you know Java, you can use Selenium with the Java combination. If you know Python, you can use Selenium with Python combination. At least one language you should know to use Selenium. So multiple languages support is there. If you take any other tools, it will support just one or two languages. Mostly only one language the tool will support, max one or two languages. But Selenium will support different type of languages. And moreover, we can also integrate some third-party tools. Suppose sometimes Selenium is not provided certain features. For example, whenever you want to work with Excel sheet or some databases, Selenium doesn't support that because Selenium is only for web-based applications. It can automate web application. It doesn't support anything else. But still, if you want to work with Excel sheet or if you want to work with the database, we can integrate some third-party tools. So that is facility which we have. So integration of third-party tools in Selenium is also possible. Okay. So in the same project, we should not use multiple languages. That is not right requirement. Okay. If you deal one single project, you will choose only one specific language. Okay. Whenever you want to use whenever you want to work with a particular project, you will choose only one language. Don't use multiple languages for one single project. Okay, just a second. Okay, so these are the advantages, guys. It's an open source tool. It's completely free. And just a minute. Guys, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. So yeah, let's continue. So these are the advantages of Selenium. So now let us discuss some of the disadvantages. So every tool we have some limitations. Okay, now let us try to understand limitations. Okay, 4th and 5th point. So 4th point is multiple languages it will support. Multiple languages in the sense you can use one of the language. So you can write automation script in Java, or you can write automation script in Python, C# or whichever language you want. That is called multiple language support. And the third-party tools support in the sense what? Suppose you want to work with the Excel sheet, especially when you perform the retesting or data-driven testing, you have to specify all the test data in Excel sheets. And we have to read the data for our automation. But Excel sheets doesn't support it by Selenium. Then how can we do it? But we have to use Excel sheet in our automation. In that case, we have to integrate some third-party tool, which is not Selenium tool, like Apache POI. We have to integrate with the Selenium, then we can overcome that. Suppose, for example, if you want to generate the reports. So once you have executed multiple test cases and you want to generate some reports, but Selenium doesn't support reporting mechanism. It doesn't have any reporting support. So then what you will do, you have to integrate some third-party tool like TestNG, extend reports. So we have to integrate with the Selenium and then we can use them in our automation. So that is called integrating third-party tools in Selenium. So wherever you find some limitation in Selenium, we can overcome that limitation by integrating some third-party tools. So that is a flexibility which we have in Selenium. We can integrate third-party tools in Selenium. Okay. So now only one project, we choose one language. We don't use multiple languages for a single project. Okay. If you start automating an application, if you start a new project, choose only one language. Whichever language you know, you can choose only one language throughout the project. Now let us understand what are the disadvantages, what we cannot automate using Selenium. First point, we cannot support, Selenium doesn't support window-based applications, which we already discussed. It is only meant for what? Web application. Selenium is only for web applications. So it doesn't support window-based applications. Okay, it cannot support window-based applications. But how can we overcome this? Suppose if you still want to automate Windows sometimes, right? Especially when you're uploading the files, when you're downloading the files. So those scenarios, if you want to automate, definitely we want to deal with the desktop applications along with the web applications. So we can overcome them by integrating our AutoIT, securely, Robot API. Again, these are all third-party tools. As I discussed in the 5th point, wherever you have some limitation, we can overcome that limitation by integrating third-party tools. So these are the third-party tools like AutoIT, securely, Robot API. By using them, we can automate window-based applications. That's the first point. But by default, Selenium doesn't support window-based applications, but there are certain scenarios where we have to deal with the window-based applications, not completely. In those cases, we will try to integrate some third-party tools. Now, the second thing is reporting not supported. This is another limitation. which we have in Selenium. Reporting is not supported. Means what? How can we overcome this problem? Reporting is not supported. So we have to again integrate with the TestNG, external reports, all those things. So by integrating those things, we can overcome reporting. Selenium is only for web-based application. It doesn't support reporting mechanism. But at the end of the day, we need reports, right? While executing your test cases, you have to generate some reports. For that, we have to take the help of TestNG and external reports, which we can integrate in Selenium. Okay, just a moment. I'm just reconnecting, guys. Just hold on. Yeah. Now, the third limitation, cannot support Excel files. As I said before, when you perform data-driven testing, when I use Excel sheets, Selenium doesn't support it, but we have to use it. We have to use Excel sheet for specifying the test data. Again, we have to integrate Apache POI. This is again third-party library, which you have to integrate with Selenium. And graphical things and captchas are not supported. And we don't recommend to automate them also, because graphs are more dynamic in nature. Based on the data, the graphs will keep changing. And captchas are especially introduced for security reasons. So we cannot break them. So those things we can't support. We don't automate those type of scenarios. These are the disadvantages and we can say limitations in Selenium. So every tool is having some limitations. Similarly, Selenium is also having some limitations. But there are more number of advantages of it. Especially, it will support multiple operating systems, multiple browsers, and multiple languages. And moreover, it is completely free of cost. So that is the reason Selenium becomes very popular in the market. There's a reason most of the companies are trying to use Selenium. It is having more number of features, and moreover, it is totally free. They don't need to spend any budget on that. So that's the reason Selenium becomes very popular. So the fourth disadvantage is it cannot support Excel files, especially when you're working with data-driven test cases. Data-driven test case is nothing but what? We have to prepare the test data in our Excel sheets or database or some notepads. For example, let's say I have a login screen. Just try to understand, okay? I want to provide the username and password. Then I want to click on the submit button. So I want to test this login screen with the different type of inputs like valid username, valid password, invalid username, invalid password, valid username, invalid password. So different combination, valid username and valid password, valid username and invalid password, invalid username and valid password, blank username and valid password, valid username is the blank password. So these are the different combinations of data. Now, if you write your automation test script, you have to run this automation test with the different sets of data. With all combinations of data, you have to execute. So automation script we can implement by using Selenium. This we can do it. But how to read the data from this Excel sheet? We will put all the data in Excel sheet. But how to read entire data into your automation test script? So Selenium doesn't support any external applications, but we can integrate them. There is an Apache Foundation is provided a package called POI. In the upcoming class sessions, I will discuss in detail, okay, what exactly they are. So these things we can integrate with Selenium so that we can read this entire data from Excel sheet. Means indirectly, Excel sheet support is provided through Apache POI because Selenium doesn't support directly. Okay, so Selenium cannot support Excel files directly. But how can we achieve this? Through Apache POI, we can achieve this. This is the limitation. This is a disadvantage. But still, we can overcome that disadvantage by integrating third-party library or third-party tool, which is called Apache POI. Same thing here also. Reporting is not supported. What is reporting means? Suppose you have 100 test cases you have executed. So you have to get some report, right? How many test cases are passed, how many are failed, how many are having bugs. So all this information you want to generate some consolidated report. That's called a report. That report shows everything, the execution status. But that report should be generated by your automation test script. You don't generate your own report. Your automation should able to generate the report. But Selenium don't have such feature. Selenium can automate web application, can execute your test cases, but finally it cannot generate any report for you. So, but the reporting is very important. In automation, reporting is very important. At the end of the day, how your team will know, how your leads will know, how many test cases you have executed, what are all failed, what are all passed, how much percentage of tests are executed, how much percentage is got failed, how they will know exactly. They don't sit in front of you and they don't see your execution part, right? Finally, they need only report. Your management, your leads read report. So you have to share that report to your leads once your automation is executed. So that reporting mechanism is not there in the Selenium. It doesn't support any reporting mechanism. But we have to generate the reports. That is mandatorily required. For that, we have to use TestNG and extend reports. These are also third-party tools. We are going to integrate with the Selenium. Then we will be able to generate very attractive reports. Okay. Clear, everyone? Graphs and captchas, we can't automate. Graph is nothing but what? If you have some data like this, it will generate the graphs like this. So these type of scenarios we cannot automate. Why? Because the graphs is more dynamic in nature. Means what? Data keeps changing. Obviously, the graph is also keeps changing. So we cannot automate this. Captchas are there. Sometimes in your application, there will be some captcha. You have to scan this, right? So this is provided because of security. If your automation code is break this particular captcha, what does that mean? You are violating the security policy. So the captchas cannot be breakable through your automation. So such type of scenarios also we don't automate. First of all, Selenium doesn't support it. Okay. So guys, everybody is clear about advantages and disadvantages for Selenium? Advantages. What are the advantages and what are the disadvantages? But there are some disadvantages, or we can say limitations. Even though there are limitations, we can still overcome them by integrating some third-party tools because they are very important. Sometimes we have to interact with the desktop applications or window-based applications. Selenium doesn't support, but we have to take the help of AutoIT, SQLi, or Robot API. Similarly, if you want to generate the report, Selenium doesn't do that. We have to take the help of TestNG or extend report. Similarly, Selenium doesn't support Excel files. So we have to take the help of Apache POI because these are all mandatorily required for your automation. Okay, but graphs and captcha, we don't automate at all, first of all. They don't, Selenium is not recommended to automate such type of scenarios. So we can simply ignore them. So these are the advantages or disadvantages. We can also say limitations in Selenium. Okay. Now, finally, we will discuss something like versions. What are the different versions are there in the Selenium and when it is got started? So quickly, I show you what are the different versions are available in Selenium. So Selenium 1.x. X means it can be any version. Like 1.x means what? 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. All these series comes under 1.x. Similarly, 2.x means what? 2.0, 2.1, 2.3, 2.4, like that. Same thing, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, and so on. So Selenium is started from 1.x, and in 1.x, it is having only 3 components. Selenium IDE is only for Firefox browser they have implemented. IDE is basically for record and playback. Means we can record all the actions. It will automatically generate some piece of code. When you execute that code, it will replay it. Just record and playback actions. For that, IDE is a plugin which is available for the browser. Later, I will discuss in detail. Here, I'm just giving very high level overview. And RC means remote control. And grid. WebDriver is not there at the beginning stage. Through RC, we were able to automate web applications. Now from Selenium 2 onwards, IDE still continued on Firefox, and RC is replaced with the WebDriver component. Now Selenium 3.x onwards, IDE is also implemented for Chrome browser, and WebDriver Git is still continued with some new features. And Selenium 4.x is again IDE is implemented for Firefox, Chrome as well as Edge browser, and WebDriver Git is still continued with the latest features. Now, what is the latest version of Selenium is? We can check in the website. And this is their official website. If I just go to, you can search for Selenium and you will find this web page. This is their official web page. Selenium official web page. You can see on the home page, they provided these three components: Selenium WebDriver, IDE, Grid. These are the three components. And if you go to this downloads, you will find multiple languages. These are the 5 different languages currently Selenium is supporting: C#, Ruby, Java, Python, and JavaScript. So we are going to use Java with Selenium. So the latest version is what? 4.12.1, September 4, recently released version. So 4.12.1 is a September 4 is recently released. So we are going to use this latest version anyway. So still 4.x 12 is the latest version and is still continuing. 4.x series is still continuing. And all components are already there. So these are the different Selenium versions currently available. So we are going to learn all 3 components. We are going to use Java as a language. And if I come down to this, it is also showing other information, like what are the different browsers it will support. So these are the browsers Selenium will support. Firefox. Internet Explorer is already deprecated because after Selenium Internet Explorer 11, Microsoft is introduced Edge browser, Microsoft Edge. So it is stopped providing more features on Internet Explorer. This is all already outdated. Instead of this, we can use Edge browser, and Safari is supported, especially for Mac users. They can use Selenium for Safari, and Opera is also supported. So these are the different browser support is there. And come to operating systems. Currently, these are the 3 operating systems supported by Selenium: Windows, Mac, as well as Linux. So all this information is available in their official website. This is their official website. And documentation, download, software, everything we can get it from this website itself. And if you go to the documentation, they will provide the documentation, very clear cut documentation we provided for every language. In every language, the documentation is provided. If you go to the WebDriver, so WebDriver documentation is got provided. All the topics, all the concepts are they provided with some examples. In every language, they have provided. So downloads, documentation, and supported related information is they have provided. So this is their official website. So everything we can refer from this website. In future, if you want to download or if you want to refer any documentation, everything we can get it from this website. Okay. So these are all Selenium versions. So guys, understood so far? So we have done with some introduction part. So what is Selenium? We have understood what it will support, what it will not support. That means advantages, disadvantages, and what are the different versions of Selenium currently which we have. So we are going to deal with the latest version in the coming sessions. But before start learning Selenium, as I said before, programming language is most important. So programming language will play most important role in our automation. So next 2 to 3 weeks of time, we are spending good amount of time only on the programming concept, only programming. So once you learn programming Java, then we will start Selenium WebDriver. Okay, I will share the content what we are going to learn. So this is all about introduction. So after that, I will discuss the general things. So before discussing the general things about training, curriculum, all those things, do you have any questions so far on whatever the topics we have discussed so far? So OTP automation and all we can do. There is no specific support required for that. So OTP is just to write automation code. So for everything is clear, please confirm in the chat box, everyone. So we have just discussed very basic stuff. So for mobile app testing, we have a different tool called Appium. So for different purposes, we have a different tools are available in the market, and Selenium is only for web automation. Whenever you want to automate web application, we will try to choose Selenium as an option. Okay. Multiple tab can be automated. Yes, they are all features actually. Okay, multiple tabs, multiple windows. Okay, they are all we can handle through automation. Okay, so this is all about introduction part. In the coming sessions, we will discuss in detail. So whatever I mentioned here, everything we will learn. Okay, everything like third-party tools also we are going to learn, like TestNG, Extend Report, and a Robot API. Even one of them is fine. Robot API or SQL Automate, one of them we can learn. And Apache PY is also we are going to learn. So everything, whatever I mentioned here, everything we are going to learn. Okay. So this is all about interaction part. In the next coming sessions, we will discuss in detail.